Hello guys, this is Novel Connections. I'm Zavi and this is...
I'm Jeremy.
And today we're doing our second episode on The Midnight Plan of the Repo Man by W. Bruce Cameron and narrated by George K. Wilson. Alright, so this time we're going to go a little bit differently, and I'm going to time Jeremy here for 2 minutes, and he has to give me literally words or something to key me into what happened in each of the chapters, because we read from chapter 13
we read
to
chapter 12 to chapter 22
12
because someone got it overzealous reading the book.
I got excited. Anyway,
yes.
2 minutes.
I love this book. I wanted you to get excited.
2 minutes, and you have to remind me of what happened in all of these chapters because I forgot to take notes. Or rather, I was 2 minutes. Okay,
yeah,
ready?
Because it's a damn good book. Yes.
Ready, set,
yes.
Go.
Okay, so chapter 12, the magazine. Alan's body is found. Murder. Rudy's a murderer. Chapter 13, Ruddy, his name is Ruddy, I keep saying Rudy. Ruddy behind bars again. Katie spat. Alan sees Katie. Chapter 14, Ruddy's third. Jimmy's fired. Katie at the Black Bear. Yeah. Chapter 15, Katie said they were just talking about marriage. Then there was a skip, and then that ended up with a fear of drowning, Alan's fear of drowning. Chapter 16 is the psychic. But that kind of the talk about with Alan and the psychic, then the talk with Strickland, and then Strickland shows that he has Ruddy's ring that was found on Alan's body. They also go to Mrs. Blanchard's house, the bank president's wife, and she's super sus.
Halfway through.
Okay, chapter 17. Oh, I'm making good time, actually. The Black Bear changes. Alan's drunk. Einstein-Croft take 2. But when they go to find him at his work, they also find the man with the shovel, Franklin Wexler. He's a board member. Chapter 18, board member Wexler. I also wrote fucking Kermit because customer inquiry charges, because when Ruddy gets back to the Black Bear, the charges there's bad. And then Jimmy's mad at Claude. And then Ruddy gets picked up, time for polygraph. Chapter 19, there's a problem with the polygraph, a conflict with Strickland between Ruddy. Jimmy paying back some of the debt. Alan's funeral, confronting Nathan Burgbee. I'm not going to make it now. Chapter 20. I still got 2 more chapters. I got 3 chapters. Alan's wife remarried Burby. Katie asked Ruddy for a ride. Ruddy shows Katie where the accident happened. Vehicular homicide. Dwight finds them. Jimmy gives some wisdom. Chapter 21. Alan on a run, if you remember.
Alan was on a run. That was crazy.
Yeah. And then they go to Franklin Wexler's home. And then they go once more to Mrs. Blanchard. And that's where they learn chapter 22 about Vicky, Jimmy's daughter. And then he comes back and they lost money running numbers. And then Becky goes to hurt Ruddy. I keep saying Rudy. It's Ruddy. Then they find out about Liddy Wexler, who died in this firebombing and left land to Franklin. And then they call Katie, and Katie ends chapter 22 saying, come on over then to Ruddy.
So I'll do a quick overview. Just holy shenanigans. This this section went by way faster. I was driving a lot of the time. I was listening to the first part of the book, and while I was listening to the second part, I literally felt like when I got to the end, I was like, oh man, I finished those chapters already. What? God damn it.
Yeah.
So it was good. There was a lot of things resolved that I was like, okay, mostly just the fact that the dude cheerleader chick was killed in a accidental homicide thing in a wreck. I knew it. That's exactly what I freaking said. That is literally exactly what I said. And I was like, ha ha. But
I'm glad you're happy she was killed in a car accident.
Well, I'm just saying it was
I'm kidding. Literally. Yes, they weren't trying to hide it, obviously.
Okay. I do kind of like
continue.
That he went to prison, though, because I just think that adds some depth to his story and everything. It wasn't just feel bad for me. And I don't think he wants that at all either, right? But it was also a way for them to have that plot aspect in there where it's like he couldn't have done the murder because he was in prison at the time. And I think that was a very useful use of having very different sort of separate lives for those two characters. It's like he was murdered and the other guy was in prison, although it was also for murder, which is kind of interesting. The ring thing was hella interesting, and that makes me feel like it's starting to tie into like why these two characters are slightly interconnected, because it just like keeps going back and forth. And then the thing towards the end where it's like, hey, the dude at the factory place like probably blew up his mother so that he could get the land. Like, yeah, totally see it. I absolutely see it. And then Jimmy having a son or daughter, whatever, having a kid.
Two different things.
Whatever. I was like, dude, oh my god. And then the chick being like, no, I don't want him around. But I didn't tell him he had a kid. And being so vindictive, but like not willing to put in any of the effort to like actually communicate with Jimmy, Johnny, whatever the hell his name is.
Jimmy.
I was like, are you serious? This is the most shallow fucking side plot. Like, as in, she's a shallow character, and if there's not like another depth to this side plot, I'm gonna be vaguely annoyed. Because that whole interaction was just like, why do you exist right now? Okay, yeah, that's it.
Okay, interesting. So yes, I think my things, on my second read, because this is again my second read because I love this book, I felt a lot more of the fighting between Ruddy and Becky. There was so much more, like, I don't know, I was able to like stop. Like those are the parts that slowed me down reading it, was hearing like how mean they were to each other.
Yeah, he's very inconsiderate.
So yes, he's rude most of the time to people, but then again, he's the one going around and helping people. He just doesn't say. And then I think it's the point is that he's been trying to joke with people and no one gets his jokes or jokes back. And so I think so then he's like, all right, then fuck you guys. I think that's kind of what it just turns into. Yeah, and also that it's just like him just losing control, right? It's also what's been the stick up his ass because of Alan in his head, of the bear changing, of him not understanding who killed Alan and all this other craziness, and then him being told, like him fucking going back to the polygraph test, being told not to talk to Katie. It's him fucking dealing with Einstein Croft. It's a lot of things out of his control. Fucking Kermit fucking ruining all his shit. But then just Katie still, the whole funeral scene was pretty intense because it was Alan like seeing his casket scene, like the part where Katie gives her eulogy or her speech that like I knew that something bad had to happen because he wouldn't have left me. And then when it cuts to Ruddy, he's saying me and Alan are both crying. And I was like, oh, it hurt me so bad. So Cameron, the author, was really, really well versed conveying not only Ruddy's emotion for knowing like the things he's been through and also could like commiserate with Katie, but then hearing Alan's frustration, who's dead, he was killed, and like he's seeing like the aftermath of, so like, you know, like when there's these tragic accidents or something and people are left behind, family members and stuff, this is like, I wouldn't say closure because it's almost like, right, because we don't have that yet in the story, but it's still like it's a way to like, I don't know, it's an interesting thought experiment. Like, what if the person was there for their funeral and stuff like that? Obviously, it's a whole story, so it's not really a thought experiment. But it's just these are the things that stuck out to me the most. And then yeah, so I remember reading through it again, and I know the story, but the part that got me was when the Sheriff Strickland like showed him his ring, and I was like, the ring! Oh my god! Because like at the very beginning in the prologue, he picks it up from the river, and he's like, oh, it has a name. He's like, someone's gonna like this, and then he puts it in his pocket, and it's Alan's internal thoughts of being like about feeling good about himself, because like technically that's selfless, you know, like just doing. And so I think it's, you know, like, and it's that little emotion that's kind of carried on, and that's something that happened. Maybe we'll find out exactly later, but that's definitely showing that connection between them, right? Like why?
Mm-hmm.
Because this was one of your questions, why Ruddy?
Mm-hmm.
And we have a little bit of that there. But then also Reddy just confronting both the killers head on and like
Oh
just
my
fucking
god,
with their
that
head.
was so good. My favorite was when he was talking to Nathan, the fucking dude at the funeral.
The
The
funeral.
he just went straight in. He was like, I know what you did, you asshole. And then the fact that Nathan and Katie's mom are a thing, I was like, man.
Did that get you? Were you expecting that?
Man, I wasn't expecting it, but when I like listened to it, I was like, "Oh, I could, that fucking son of a bitch."
You're like, fuck
asshole.
that guy.
yeah, that was exactly my mentality.
Yeah,
but then, like when Katie ran off with Ruddy, it was one of those situations where I was like, "Man, this is how you know she's not in a good relationship," because she didn't ask her boyfriend to drive her home. She asked Ruddy to drive her home.
I thought she explained, kind of quasi-explained.
She explained that she didn't want to go bother her mom or Nathan, I remember.
Because
she like drove
she gave some half
mom.
explanation.
Yeah.
And then Reddy was like, yeah, he didn't like try to question her more.
Mm-hmm. And then they were just sitting together, and that's when he told her the story about like.
Yeah, he drove her there. He showed her exactly the part.
You just need some hot chick to get out your deep emotional, battles. That's apparently.
And then Alan heard it all too.
Yeah, he's not gonna tell another man. Come on.
But I'm saying like he knew that he was telling Alan at the same time.
Yeah, but it
like, and then
Katie
Alan was saying things because Alan can't shut the fuck up. But then but that conversation was also the only reason he did that is because Katie was saying all these things like, "Am I a bitch? Because I was so mad at my dad, this and that," and then Alan was crying just hearing her and stuff like that. Yeah, I think that part gets me every time because obviously he knows Alan, he knows that he like loved his daughter and his wife to an extent, right? They were having problems, but he didn't, they didn't divorce. He was still there for Katie, but then like to have Katie feeling so bad and stuff, right? That it was like that this changed her whole life, her whole trajectory and stuff like that, and that like Alan just having to hear it and can't even say anything back,
Well, and he was like, you need to hold her, like we need to hold her. And
that one time.
And then
he was
Reddy being like, you do, not me.
Yeah. He's like, not random Repo Man does not need to hold her.
No.
Yeah. So right now, let's see. What are some things that shocked you the most? What was like some good twist? Obviously, I mean that you knew that there was an accident, right? You just didn't know like the exact circumstances. But as far as characters changing or any character growth, you would say, like new characters, go for it.
I think having Jimmy, whatever his name is, Jimmy. I think having Jimmy end up with a kid was nicely highlighted by when he got angry at what's his face for
Claude,
like cheating on his wife, being like, you have something that you should value more, because anybody who any reasonable person who had that would realize how fucking great it is. That was the first time that I have actually slightly appreciated him as a character.
Yeah. And then so that was a good part. And he also gave another bit of wisdom to Ruddy when he came home, when Katie was all upset it was like literally right after that Dwight came and
he's like women don't like their plans to be changed.
Yeah, he's like maybe she just thought she had it all figured out, and then you come along and make her realize differently.
Yeah, no, that was a great piece of wisdom. I think it also shows Jimmy's perspective as somebody who can get girls really easily, and so he he's an idiot when it comes to so many things, but it kind of shows off his want for something more consistent and like longer, and that's why he's so frustrated with what's his face for cheating on his wife. Claude, whatever.
Yeah, see, I bet that was
so that's nice.
Okay, any other of the new characters? Any developments with Katie? Because you kept giving her crap about it.
Yeah. I don't know if I like her any more or any less. She still seems kind of convenient, but it is more believable. because she's really pissed at him because she thinks that he killed her dad, and then she forgets that she's already met him, and then they start to like be like, oh well, you're just the one who found him, and then there's some relatability because she went to the big city and came back and doesn't feel like she can, or is on top of her game, and Ruddy has had a crazy life story. So there's more there that I'm now appreciative of. It still feels kind of like, okay.
I mean,
Well,
it is a story. You know that, right? It's fiction. Things could happen.
I know. It is fiction. But I was just like, all right. When you can get together, have a happily ever after, where she can move into your house and make it feel like a home and, blah, 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 and have some stability. Not that I don't want that, but I'm just saying, like, yeah. And then what's his face taking over his body in the middle of the night? Alan taking over Ruddy's body.
Going for a
that
run.
Was great. I don't know why. I'm on the side of what Alan said, not on the side of Ruddy. Alan was like, most people would kill for like being able to work out and just being unconscious the whole time, like just having all this work done for you. I am 100% abso-fucking-lutely. This is a grown-ass man who I know knows how to drive a vehicle. I know knows how to deal with a lot of situations. Is way more cautious than I am myself. So I'm gonna get into less like iffy situations. And like the only thing I have to worry about is social interactions, but I sleep at night when he would be awake and there's less social interactions in the middle of the night. I get a cleaner house and I get exercise. Like 10 out of 10, man. Just 10 out of 10.
But it's your body.
Okay.
It's taking over your autonomy. I don't know.
He already lives in my head. Such is life.
So yes, I get some of that. Obviously, that would be interesting. But the way he found out was what really pissed him off. He woke up in the middle of the night, hurting outside in the woods in the dark in the cold. Yeah, there was easier ways to break it to it. Yes.
I would get alarmed.
You can see why he's upset.
I'd be like, oh, God, fuck, I've been possessed. Oh, wait, I'm already possessed.
Exactly.
But, I think my rationale, like, the next day would be like, okay, well, you should have told me this was happening, but then also realize that he was hiding it from Alan, that he knew Katie. So there's, like, some...
That was so slight in comparison.
But there's just some things, right?
I also remember that Ruddy was like, he's like, sure, I got mad at him. He's like, but honestly, how could I stop him if he does want to do that stuff? Right? I'm asleep. There's no way he could possibly stop him.
I would be okay with it though. I would have a conversation the next day and be like, hey, I know I freaked out at you, man, but like that was crazy. Wish you would have told me. Here's some boundaries I would like you to follow as far as like when you have my body under your control, but like also go for it.
Also, sure, go take a run, do 500 crunches or whatever the fuck he was saying.
Yeah, man, then I'd feel great. I'd be like, I don't even have to work out. It's awesome. I get exercise. The voice in my head goes to sleep more. Like, it's a win-win.
All right.
The polygraph test, that was an ingenious idea. I love that. I didn't know how they were going to get out of it, but I was like, duh, he's got mind control. Obviously, it's not going to be accurate.
Yeah, it was that was really clever. Yes, it was very smart and well thought. Because this is like normal processes, right? Like if you think of it from the sheriff's perspective, he's saying like, I only have you for this murder case, and so the sheriff thinking like, oh, he must have overheard someone in prison on how he got killed or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is like a smart like sheriff way of thinking, right? And then he's like, all right, I don't know what to think with you.
I know you're lying to me, but something's going on.
Yeah. And then the polygraph test messed up.
I think that was all believable. It's so believable. It's fantastic that this guy can write such a believable story. Like every character makes sense. It's like fantastic.
Even though they're convenient characters.
Even though life is convenient sometimes. It pisses me off.
Life is weird sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes it's convenient. Sometimes you end up in the middle of nowhere in the desert and like screaming for reasons. But
guess that's for later unpacking. But yeah, so it definitely ramped up. I told you. You said it was slow, and now look at you, you're speeding through.
If this book doesn't have a happy ending, I'm gonna like be very upset with you.
Well,
Oh, no.
You know that there's more
No.
books in this series. That this
No.
is the Reddy McCain series.
Shit.
So we could see what happens to good
Did
old
you get me
Reddy.
to read a sad book? I should
You
have
don't know.
told you I'm not good at reading a sad book.
Wait,
Oh,
you weren't
shit.
sad this whole time? Like hearing
No.
Becky like
No, this
fucking
is. I mean, the Becky
decimate
thing was
Ruddy?
like, okay. He's kind of being an asshole.
He was worried she's losing money and she wants to
Yeah.
immediately defend rather than
And
like
literally all he was doing was being antagonistic, invalidating her ideas, invalidating her ability to take control of the situation. Everything she threw at him almost was like, no, I don't think you can handle that. They put me in charge or whatever. I'm the older brother. Like, I get it. I get what he's trying to do. I understand it. But the words coming out of his mouth are fucking awful. So I understand why she's like, I'm not getting through to you. There's no way I can win. Like,
she
I'm just
immediately
gonna do
went
it.
on the defensive because she knew
Yeah.
no, so the thing is
Because he's
she knew
antagonistic as
that
fuck.
no, Ruddy said, "Are you sure about this?" He said, "That's crazy. We shouldn't do
Okay.
this." And the fact that they started losing money and they're freaking out, right?
But they
Because
weren't
he's
initially
not
losing money.
getting money. So they could have just not told him. Obviously, that could have been worse or not worse.
No,
But
they got money at one point. I think they had just not divided it yet or something. Because they were talking about getting money. And then
Ruddy
losing.
said, "No, you have my third. Put it back into this place." And that's why she's been changing the
Oh,
stuff.
okay, I missed it.
Ruddy didn't want the money. He hasn't wanted it. He's like, if it makes Becky happy, he was like okay with it. He's like, fine. If it's making my sister happy, then great. And then of course, all of a sudden, it's a chance to make her not happy. And so that's why he's mad, because he tried to warn her and protect her from it. And so she knows that. So she immediately went to hurt him and get him out of there.
Well, I mean, okay, two things. This might be where it differs between reading versus listening. Because even when he's like, are you sure about this? Right? The way that I hear it is in a very passive aggressive tone. And if somebody comes to me and I'm trying to give them an idea and they look at me dead in the eyes with a straight fucking face and they're like, are you sure about this? No, I'm not going to want to tell you my idea.
That's so interesting, because of course you're hearing it, so you're hearing tone inflections and everything. Yeah. My reading is just from my point of view.
Your perspective, on it. And you hear more of the care. I do not. I do not hear the care. I know that he's thinking it from a caring perspective because I hear his inner dialogue, right?
Yeah.
But the way he says it to Becky sounds very passive aggressive to me.
Yeah, but if you're right, you could be passive aggressive, right?
No, not if you want to properly communicate. Okay. Oh
yes,
my God.
He has problems communicating. This is Ruddy. We know
Jesus
this.
Christ. Yeah,
but so does his sister.
No, for sure, 100%. She can't not be defensive, which I totally relate with, and maybe that's why, like, Becky freaking out immediately is understandable to me, because I used to be, like, super defensive, constantly. And so, like, her immediately jumping to that makes sense. I'm like,
immediately jumping to saying the worst thing imaginable.
Well, okay, not the worst thing, but immediately starting to get defensive is like, yeah, I totally get that. She's fucking done. She's probably dealt with this for years, right? She doesn't feel like she has any control. And there is some uptick, right, in the business, in the atmosphere, in people coming in when she's able to change the restaurant a little bit, right? And that was something Ruddy, that was something Ruddy pushed back on so hard, right? So she obviously can't entirely trust his opinions and advice on this subject. So trying to do the card swiping thing, whatever, is like, she doesn't really understand it, and that's a risky thing. But she's in love with Kermit, which I don't like Kermit, but she's in love with Kermit, and she's trying to take the advice of somebody she respects and seems to know things about a space in which she knows very little. So there's potential room for her to do something else for the business, right? And they saw some positive from it, so maybe it will just have lows, like Alan mentioned.
Yeah.
And Ruddy's not receptive to that at all. Like, he's not receptive anytime anything goes well, unless it's his fucking car steals, which he's like, didn't get it this time, but I'll just get it next time.
I mean, that's life as a repo, I'm sure.
Yeah, and so maybe life,
but it's not his family's business.
Also different, okay? I'm just saying, he's so closed off when it comes to that.
So, yes, he is closed off because these are the last remnants of his life. But he hasn't articulated it. So, yes, no one knows these things. He's just the only one wallowing in this.
Well, it also seems to be the last remnants of Becky's life, too. I mean, what else does she have? Because to me, she's desperate enough to fall in love with fucking Carmen.
No, that's a good point. That's a good point.
I don't know what the hell else she's got going on. She's just renovating and working at the bar all the time. And, like, she's obviously very upset with fucking her brother because she keeps mentioning the stuff about, you know, their parents being disappointed in him. So I imagine she's probably, you know...
they never had closure going through. Yeah. There's definitely a lot of blame there.
So I don't think she's got much else going on either.
That's fair, yeah. But, yeah, so to Ruddy, it's more of a pleasant reminder. To her, it's more of, you know, a not pleasant reminder. So it's definitely them with lack of their amazing McCain communication skills. But yeah, no, I didn't even think about, like, hearing, because, again, I'm just reading the book and you're listening to it with the audio. So hearing the tone inflection and stuff. But the thing is, like, unless it's like Bruce Cameron reading the book himself, are those tone inflections meant, you know, that you hear from, what's his name again? Who does the narration?
George K. Wilson.
George K. Wilson.
Okay.
It's just like...
But
I don't listen to many audiobooks. It's
Cameron's book, right?
Yes.
And he had to okay the narration for it to get published anyways.
Okay.
So he's obviously okay with the interpretation of the characters through the illustration of the voice, right?
Yeah. That's a good point. Good point. It's just, it's crazy. Because again, like I said, I have, I guess, voices and inflections and tones for all the characters in my head, but that's just what happens when you read. So it's definitely.
I thought you were gonna say you just have voices and inflections, and I was like, yes, Jeremy, I'm glad you're not entirely monotone. As a DM, that would be awkward if you didn't have voices and inflections.
But I meant like while reading.
Audio narration is a fantastic thing that adds so much context that you might not otherwise get from reading. That's one of the reasons
you
love it.
You might make your own context versus the context that's told. Like, you know, that's the whole point when you watch book adaptations that are movies. You're like, that's not this, because that was someone else's vision.
This is why I scream at the Harry Potter books, movies. I don't scream actually, I have screamed at the books, but that's only during a Quidditch match when I get really excited.
That's funny. If Quidditch was NFL, you would be any other person yelling at, like, the TV.
Literally, I have never been into sports, but if Quidditch was real, I would be the hugest sports person ever. Which is stupid, because... you're just watching the dude try and get the snitch, right? It's just a game of, like, competitive tag.
Hey, when you make me read Harry Potter, we could get into it.
You want to go through that with me?
That's the whole point of this. So here, now that we've come to a more logical conclusion of this, that's the whole point of this series. I want you to love this book like I do. Because this is one of my favorite books. Because it's so, I think it's smart, it's witty. There's a lot of good humor, even in the times when, like, it's smart with, like, the comebacks and the snappiness, the sassiness, but it's also smart with, like, the whole plot and the story, and like he must have drew, like, a little plot web, you know, and, like, click, 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 and connected some dots and stuff, right? Yeah. So the book's smart and clever. It's a murder mystery. The realism's there. It's grounded. It's surreal, but it's grounded still. So, like, the parts that float up are maybe like Alan in the head and the supernatural stuff, this murder mystery, but everything else is still, you know, living a day by day, family stuff, past traumas, other people, even, like, the people he interacts with, they all feel alive enough. Yes, it's weird and awkward and, like, why are we at this side story? But it's still other people's lives, you know, like he is the main character to this story, But much like every day, we're the main character of our story in our lives, but we run into people and they're the main character of their story in life. So Ruddy talking to Mrs. Blanchard, or the bank's president's wife, like that she had her reasons that didn't make sense, but it was vindictive. And when she sent the checks to Jimmy, who wouldn't get any subtlety, right? That's what Ruddy says to her. Isn't that a bit subtle for Jimmy? But yeah. Then Katie, she's been living her life, and all of a sudden, like her dad died so while she was so young, or left. She didn't know he was dead. She thought, she really wanted to believe, or didn't want to believe, that something bad happened, but the only thing that makes sense. Yeah. So I like how the book, even though we're following a main character, one or two main characters, right? With Alan technically in Ruddy's head, but it's still so, the little bits of like people's lives that are touched make sense. And like even Einstein Croft, right? A guy who's just hell bent on keeping his property, like little things like that. It just makes it feel more believable. They're not like pop in characters to just do a thing at one time and then they fall flat, like cardboard
Mm-hmm.
cutouts. So I think that's definitely what intrigued me and kept me reading through. And then having a little murder mystery and love interest is what's just sped run the whole end.
Mm-hmm.
Which, like you've said, it's been ramping up, right? You kind of lost track of time.
Oh yeah, for sure. See, ladies and gentlemen, here is where you gotta find a mystery book that makes you feel like you were the main character of your life. Woo! That's what I heard from that. That's the only thing I took away.
Awesome, thanks. I feel so heard. I would say seen, but we're on a podcast, so
Yeah, okay. Well, that was fantastic. I really want to read the rest of it and get to the end and then figure out what the hell they could be reading or writing about in a sequel. You said there's a trilogy. How many books are there?
That's a good question. The Reddy McCain series, let's find out. There's The Midnight Plan of the Repo Man, there's Repo Madness, then there's
Repo Madness sounds like it gets worse.
yeah. Is it an ongoing series? The Midnight Dog of the Repo Man? It's a short story which introduces former college star and tells how Reddy met his best friend Jake, the dog. Okay, so that's the third
Aw,
book.
it's like a
So maybe,
prequel kind of thing.
yeah, it says point .5, book point .5. So the
Mm,
Midnight Dog of the Repo Man is the first like prequel book. Then the Midnight Plan is book 1, Repo Madness is book 2.
mm-hmm.
But then Cameron has other books, like other miniseries. One's called A Dog's Purpose. You might have heard of it, might not
Nope.
have. So he's a prolific writer, I would say. But yes, so those are the other two books. So there's at least one more book, one and a half more books because of the dog. We can learn about Jake.
Nice.
Yeah, and I guess as we we finalize kind of our thoughts for right now, I like how he keeps talking about like it's just like Cameron the author likes dogs when he could like articulate how much like Ruddy likes Jake, right? And how
Mm-hmm.
Alan's like, how could you treat people like crap, but you treat your dog like this? And then he's like, well, how come no one could treat me the way Jake could like love me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's very much like when Jimmy's staying over at his house, because he got fired from the hotel,
Yeah.
and that Jake is all happy to see him, and because Jimmy lets Jake up on like the bed and stuff like that, and
Mm-hmm.
then Ruddy's always like, "You have to love me more. It's the rule."
No, that
Yeah,
was very sweet.
it's definitely like if pet owners would know like when pets like other people more than them, like what the hell?
Yeah, you would know that, wouldn't you, Jeremy?
I would. Pets love me more times than their owners, and it's hilarious how upsetting it can be. Uh, But
You're
and then you get to see
terrible.
it like articulated in a story, and so that's
Uh-huh.
a lot of fun.
All
So
right. Well, that sounds fantastic. I'm happy. I'm contented. And I need to get into the next part of the freaking book. Find
yeah,
out
so
why the people killed their grandmother. Whatever.
yes, why Wexter did the thing, why both of them killed Alan,
Mm-hmm.
why Katie's asking Ruddy to come over,
Oh, that's
and what
obvious. They're gonna bang.
we'll see what happens. And I think these final chapters, it sends off the book really well. And
Mm-hmm.
I think like I have probably never read of never thought of a circumstance that happens in these books, but I've never like read it either, you know. Like series is like amateur sleuth, right? Like just someone happening into like uncovering a mystery, right? But it's also has those supernatural hints with Alan just kind of co-piloting or piloting sometimes. But yeah, it was such a unique book, and I think that's why I kept reading it so fast, and that's why I liked it so much. So I'm super excited for you to see the conclusions and know all the things I know, and then we get to talk about
And
it
be
all.
sad?
You don't know that. That's
Well,
that.
you're
I
making
want you to
me...
not. There's been some sad things.
It's been fun.
Oh, okay, never mind. Then we're fine. But
Okay,
yes, we
cool.
have the last part, and this would be our third installment for the Midnight Plan of the Repo Man, written
Mhm.
by W. Bruce Cameron and
Yeah.
narrated by
George K. Hold
and
on.
narrated
Wilson.
by
George K. Wilson.
yes.
George K.
So
Wilson.
tune in with the conclusion of Midnight Plan of the Repo Man and our
Hear us
final
rate
thoughts.
the book.
And we will give our full ratings of the book, and we'll see, and we'll kind of I guess we'll have your evolution of thought on the stories and characters, and then the whole how it ended, if you like the ending of the book, because that's going to be, obviously you're excited for it, and we want to see if it
Mhm.
if it keeps your excitement, if it ends in something that you would enjoy, because it's something I enjoy, and I want you to love this book like I do. Well, until next time, I'm Jeremy.
I'm Zabi. Goodbye.
This is Novel Connections. See you next time.